First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service. It's been a breath of fresh air.
Thank you for having me.
The prior arguments. This is the gun issue. You had alluded to the background check issue.
Right.
There are those of us that are very concerned about that. It's an easy sell. It feels good. Well, what in my as you know, with anything in Washington, it's the unintended consequences. It rides up the fight you're going to win. The concern is, if we have background checks like that, who does it? It will be the existing gun shows. Feinstein's bill limits the cost of a background check to $10. There won't be a dollar limit on a private sale background check. That could be $50. Why would a gun show owner want to help you sell your gun, which keeps him from selling your gun? He may refuse to do it. It prevents you from selling a gun to your neighbor, from the kinds of sales that frankly aren't really, in my opinion, a big deal. Criminal guns come from being stolen. They come from, illegal sales between criminals. And in fact, in New York City, there was a business where you could rent a gun for a crime. I don't think it's going to affect that. And I had
you gotta love American entrepreneurialism.
And they don't pay taxes. Secondly, I had written your office on email on a gun issue, and I got back a very nice letter that was like cotton candy. It tasted wonderful, but it wasn't very much. I would like to hear you.
I love cotton candy. Oh, go ahead.
I like cotton candy too. I would like to hear you say that you will oppose and fight against any additional gun legislation in any form. I would rather have you fight a difficult fight and lose than fold up and once again turn the screws a little tighter. The tighter the screws get, the more people just are tired of fighting the system.
Yeah, and one of the things we hear a lot now, that the folks who are for gun control are trying to change the debate. And they said, you don't need a 30-round magazine in order to hunt. You don't need an AR-15 to hunt. And of course, that's not the point. It's the Second Amendment is not a right to hunt; it's a right to bear arms. I'm going to disappoint you though, in this I won't vote for anything because I'd be more than happy to look at changes on the background checks. You raised a couple of real valid concerns about that. There are a lot more that I have that you didn't even mention. For example, mental illness is not defined in the bill or in the proposal. Okay, mental illness is also not defined, by the way, in the Affordable Health Care Act. We have examples in our lifetimes in other countries where political dissidence was considered to be a mental illness. Right now in this country, if you own, in fact, raise your hand, or don't raise your hand, I'm not going to ask you to self-identify yourself as a possible terrorist. But if you have more than one gun per person, if you own any gold or silver bullion, and if you have more than 7 days worth of food and water in your house, you are on the list of potential. Yeah, I know Jeff is. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, yeah, listen, you are a potential terrorist in this, and that stuff worries me. It really does. So I'm with you. It's not. You can't have, and again, I apologize for the cotton candy answers from my office. I do encourage you folks to realize we get a lot of mail, and I do not respond to every single deal. So if you don't get the answer you want, write us back. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you'll eventually get a specific answer on the topic that you want. I write general answers to general points to do folks as we get several thousands of inquiries a day. But anyway, I'm not willing to accept the saccharine idea of just expanding background checks either. I want to know what they do, I want to know why they are, I want to know what the costs are, I want to know that. But my point when I raised the gun show in the first place was that the reason it exists was technologically 20 years ago when they started it, you couldn't do it. The internet wasn't around. Now it would be relatively easy to do. And that was my only point. was that it is a loophole. It doesn't have an impact. Like I said, I think it's 0.6% of gun crimes committed with guns bought at those things. So you're absolutely right. So I cannot give you the exact answer you look for, but I can assure you that I am a gun owner. One of my favorite lines, I asked the governor of Utah one year, they said, how many guns do you have? He said, I have more than I needed, but not as many as I want. And I do take it very seriously, and I'm very quick to tell people, I did on the radio today, the conversation is not about what we need. In all fairness, it's none of the government's business what we need, okay? Did the young man in Newtown, did he need to have access to video games? Did his parents, here's a tough question, did his parents need to get divorced? We don't ask that question in this country because it's none of the government's business. They have a right to get divorced, he has a right to watch the video games, they have a right to those guns. And that's just the way the country is set up. There are things we can do to make sure that mentally ill people don't get them, let's take those steps. But we're not going to change the debate to what the government gets in the business of telling us what we need and what we don't need.
Congressman, what you just said is a good segue to what I'm going to bring up, and that is the bridging of the liberties. Because that's what they do. Crisis comes up, and I say they, be it mainstream media, be it our liberal representatives in this country, Congress and Senate, something happens that is outrageous and tragic for both, and the media reaction is, well, we need to take away some liberty of this. With a background check, frankly, is the diminishing of your liberty. You know, like you said, how are you defining mental illness? Postpartum mental illness? You just had a baby, so you can't buy a handgun. Or maybe it's going to be a shotgun next week, and I find something gets away. Thankfully, our founders devised a system where we had checks and balances, and last week we saw the first check on our executive branch, I can remember, since Obama.
Oh, the recess appointments, yeah, that was a good one.
There's a recess appointments getting thrown out, hopefully they'll go whatever they've done for the last year. Hopefully they'll want their payback. That's what it's like that. I don't know what happened. My question is, does the GOP now, and I'm not speaking to you, I'm just speaking of what the sense is in the House and the Senate, have the intestinal fortitude in the backbone to remember to stand up for that Constitution for our liberties? Because it seems like they do a lot of going along to get along. We're not going to fight because it didn't work to fight. There's a lot of, we get distracted because I think our president, our executive branch makes an issue of a business of keeping us distracted by doing things that shouldn't or couldn't or ought not to do and bogging us down in minutia, whereas our very liberties are being taken out from under. And I just want to know what is really going to happen in this country. I got these two little girls here. I don't know what's